Hello and welcome back, and this is the final episode of Quake, and we're going to take a look at the Elder World. Now, here's the thing. I know you guys are probably wondering, what am I looking at here? Well, John Carmack, when he released the source code to this game, it pretty much revealed all of the secrets to this game, and it had given the community the ability to take the game and convert it to a completely different game engine. This is the DarkPlaces source port, also known as the DarkPlaces engine. This engine can be used for other games. In fact, a few games have used this engine in the past, but this engine is more famous for creating the best looking version of Quake. Now bear in mind, it is quite difficult to get the game to look this good. I had to download quite a few different, I'm not going to say mods, because technically they're not mods, they're just more like, they're just extensions to the DarkPlaces engine. You know, stuff like high-res textures and higher quality models, even though most of the models are not enhanced except for the nail gun here. But also the lighting is vastly improved, and that's not just the DarkPlaces engine's doing. Someone actually released a file that, you know, adds a unique lighting effect. You know, you have like really strong colored lighting, orange lights and blue lights and, you know, flickering lights and all of that stuff. So I guess you could say, in a way, Quake can do colored lighting. Of course, not the original It Take Two version, but whatever, close enough. So DarkPlaces really is a testament to how far fans will go with modding Quake, to the point where it becomes the new definitive version of the game. DarkPlaces is an incredibly popular source port to Quake. Now, I want to take a step back and talk about the controversial nature of Quake. Quake was originally supposed to be something much bigger than just another first-person shooter. And instead of me just trying to explain it myself what actually happened, I'm gonna get John Romero himself to explain what had happened. This is an interview from the show Matt Chat. It's a YouTube channel. You can go check it out. I'll put the link in the description below. And enjoy.
So Quake was a hard game to make. You know, up until that point, we had made Commander Keen. The first Keen that we made took 3 months. The first series. Second series took us 6 months. That was a long time, but during that 6 months, we were making other games as well, right? Because we were helping Softisk out. So we made like 3 other games while we were making those. And we take 6 months to do Wolfenstein. So we doubled our development time. Then we make Doom, and it doubles it again to a year. And so we start working on Quake, and after a year of Quake, it's the hardest year on the team because, first of all, with Doom, you know, even with Wolfenstein and Doom, after 2 months we could start making a game. Like, the engine ran. We could make levels and we could just do it, right? With Quake, the engine wasn't ready to make a game for a year. So during that year, we always thought it was going to happen, like at some point, right? And I basically wrote Quake Ed, the editor, just like I had done for Doom and everything before that. I wrote every editor that we had. But it wasn't just me and John. I mean, we had a team of other people in the company. We had 9 people working on Quake. And those people had never been through a game cycle from the beginning, except for the people that were on Doom. And that was me and John and Adrian and Kevin. That was it. Those were the only ones that had been on the previous one from the beginning, because Sandy came in halfway through, and Dave Taylor came in halfway through. So nobody had been there, right, for a whole thing. Like, here's what it takes to make a groundbreaking technology and a groundbreaking game design. Boom, go. So they didn't know what it was like. And so it was really hard on them when it went past the point of sanity of how long do we keep on working on stuff that we have to keep throwing away? You know, like American kept on making level after level for Carmack's engine to test stuff and having to throw them away constantly, you know? write code in the scripting language and then throw it away because we just redid the scripting language, or that kind of stuff. And no game design and all technical work was really hard on everybody, right? And so after a year of doing that, the engine was was ready to go, but everyone was mentally like busted. So at the time, we had a big meeting. It's like, okay, the game is ready to be made. Now we can put in all of the world-class effort that it takes to make an awesome game design on an awesome engine that you just finished, and everyone else is like, we are done. Mentally, we're finished. We can't even think of a new game design. We just want to finish this thing and crawl under a rock. And I was disappointed in that. I was really wanting to do a really awesome new game design, and Carmack was on the fence, and Adrian was also on the fence. But everybody could see how snapped the people who had never been on a thing from the very first day, what kind of a toll it took on everybody, that we were not maybe halfway there. So anyway, that was really hard. And when that happened, when that decision of, let's just slap Doom weapons in this engine and call it a game, when we all had that long talk that one day, I was just like, this isn't the same place anymore. We used to all know what we were going to do, and now there's doubt because the new people have never done this before, these new elements, in id, and it's not the same place. So I was basically going to be done. After Quake was done, I was done. So I said, all right, I will redesign the game, put Doom weapons in. We're going to make a really great game with Doom weapons in the game, but it's not the next level that I was hoping for. And let's do it as fast as we can. And that's what we did. And that was in November when we had that meeting. And in January, I had called up Tom Hall and I said, when Quake's over, I'm out of here. We're going to start another company. And so Tom's like, okay, I'm working on Prey, and I'll just stop after you're out of there. So I worked for 7 months on Quake, all the way to the very end, 7 days a week. It was insane work to make a game. Even if it was just a clone of Doom weapons and stuff, it was still hard work to make a really quality game out of it. But we did, on June 22nd, that was a Saturday of 96. And everyone was so broken that the last month of making Quake, American wasn't even in the company. I mean, he left. We didn't even know where he was. He just couldn't get a hold of him, didn't know where he was at or anything. He just snapped. And so I had to have Tim Willits finish all his work that American had half finished, and then I had to do a lot of sound work on it. And then the day that I put the game on the net, nobody was even at work. They were all just busted at home. And I went up there on Saturday, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to put this thing together. I got all the files, and I'm going to have to I had to find a new program to compress and extract, because the stuff that we were using before would not do a subdirectory, because this was the first id game with a subdirectory, the id1 folder. So I found LHA. And then LHA was super cryptic with its stupid command line options. It was not clear because it was written by a guy in France. So I basically put it all together and put it out on the net pretty much by myself. Everyone was broken. From the time I told people, it took probably about 6 hours for me to make sure the whole thing was perfect install, perfect packaging, good download, all that kind of stuff. It took about 6 hours to get it together. And then put it up on the net, and it just went nuts. Everyone went nuts. But it was like very symbolic of the end of the era at id, putting that game up. It was a hard one to put up.
It was a difficult time for id Software. A lot of people just did not understand that making a game would take longer and would become harder as technology improved. And I really appreciate that even though John Romero did not get the game he wanted, that he still put in the effort to make the best game that he could. For me, even though Quake isn't the most revolutionary game out of all of id Software's shooters, at least in terms of the main single play campaign, it is the most refined. Quake is my most favorite id Software game. It is, in my opinion, more polished and more enjoyable than Doom, and that really is saying something. Even though Quake did introduce a ton of new things, online multiplayer, and it was even the vessel for certain mods that would eventually result in future games, such as, Team Fortress. Team Fortress was originally a mod for Quake. There's a whole bunch of things that we got from Quake, and I honestly don't know all of them, and I don't have time to mention all of them. In fact, there is a show called Retro Ahoy on a YouTube channel simply called Ahoy that does a much better job at talking about the things that Quake did. I would strongly recommend that you guys go check it out. It is one of the best videos I've ever seen when it comes to explaining the influence that Quake had on gaming. In fact, there's a line that I really liked. It was at the end of the video where he said, "Perhaps Quake didn't quite live up to Doom's expectations, but it gave us more than we ever wanted." The technology contributed immensely to modern day 3D engines. Modern multiplayer exists because of Quake. The music plays such a big role in the tone of the game. I played this game, the shareware version, not back in the day. I didn't have a powerful enough computer to play it, but quite a few years ago I played the shareware version of Quake, and it just wasn't nearly as scary as it is now with the music intact. The shareware version didn't have music because, bear in mind, the music was in the Red Book audio format. And for those that don't know, Trent Reznor, of Nine Inch Nails fame, was a huge fan of Doom, and he's actually the one responsible for not just the music but also the sound effects. And he did an absolutely fantastic job. I mean, Robert Prince, working on all previous id Software games, did a very good job as well. But I think that Trent Reznor was a little bit better. The game was a little bit more immersive. It had a little bit more atmosphere than all of the previous games. But also the level design in Quake, I think, was better than what we saw in previous games, especially with Wolfenstein 3D and Doom 2. I am not a fan of Sandy Peterson until I found out that Sandy Peterson is the sole author of Episode 4 in Quake. He made all of the levels in the Elder World. I mean, he has improved like I cannot believe how much better he has gotten designing these maps. All of these maps are absolutely brilliant. Some of them are better than others, but the level design is more interesting. And that's all I have to say about Quake. I can go on and on about a whole bunch of things. I got a list here just to read out some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about that I didn't get time to talk about, such as Pro Quake. If you guys want to experience GL Quake on a modern computer, I would instead recommend that you use the source port Pro Quake, but make sure that it's version 4.52. That's the latest version that still had support for music. Apparently the guy that worked on the source port thinks that people are mostly going to use it for multiplayer, so they're not going to need music, so let's just disable music, which is kind of silly. He should have just left it in, but whatever. So I'd recommend that version of Pro Quake if you guys want to experience proper GL Quake on a modern PC. But yeah, Thank you all for listening to me ramble on about one of my most favorite games of all time, and take care.